Welcome to Where Imagination Meets Intelligence. I'm Heleen, your host, co-founder and CEO of Infinite Reach AI, and specialize in helping health and wellness industries scale their business and revenue. Today, we are joined by Ricky Hall, founder of NutritionHQ and a true advocate for the community-driven wellness. Ricky's entrepreneurial journey from the military to owning multiple franchises and pioneering innovative nutrition coaching models makes him an expert in the health and wellness industry. With 25 years of brick and mortar retail experience and an inside look on how the franchise models work for coaching and retail, Ricky is here to share his expertise and experience as a franchisor, retail and business owner. Tune in as we uncover the top 3 mistakes that ruin personalized coaching and wellness programs and gain valuable insights into creating impactful and sustainable health transformations. Ricky, thank you so much for being here.
That's my pleasure. Thank you. So I'm excited to be here today, and I can talk nutrition, business, entrepreneurship, 24/7. I eat it, sleep it, drink it, love it.
That's fantastic. We're at the right place for that today. Just to get for our audience and our listeners, Ricky, could you tell us a little bit about your story from where you started and your journey to where you're now, and the impact that you've been able to make for yourself, but also with your business?
Yeah, so I grew up in Missouri. I grew up in actually a small farm town, and I didn't even live in town. I actually grew up on a farm, and I always say, my front yard was a bean field, my backyard was a hay field. My mom and dad were blue collar workers. My mom was an entrepreneur. My grandfather was the farmer, which I consider the ultimate entrepreneur. So I grew up in an entrepreneur world where if you're around entrepreneurs, most of them, I was in a seminar one time and there were probably 1,000 entrepreneurs in it. And a guy said, raise your hand if your parents were entrepreneurs. And I'd say 90% of the people raised their hand. So I've kind of always been that way. Went to high school, very active in high school sports, baseball, football, track, a little bit of everything. If it was sports, I was involved. From there, I went straight into the military. I actually turned 18 in basic training. So I always, like I said, played sports and loved the gym. I had a weight bench in my bedroom from as a little kid. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had it. I loved it. And then as I went into the military, I did basic training, which is extremely active. You don't get to go to the gym. Went to my trade school, didn't go to the gym, kind of fell out of it because I was never a good student, so I had to work hard to get through. I was a legitimate BC student. Got out of trade school, went to my first military base, and I put on a lot of weight. And I had seen a picture of myself at Christmas time, and I didn't even know it was me. And from then, I'm like, oh no, this isn't who I am. So from then, that's when I bought my first nutrition book and started studying macros, proteins, carbs, fats. And I went from, I would say, north of 200 pounds down to about 150 pounds and completely transformed my body personally. And then got back into the gym and training, then put good, healthy weight back on. And that was my first probably glimpse into food and the power of food and nutrition. And from there, I started having people reach out. Hey, will you help me? I'm struggling losing weight. Can you help me this? And I just loved it. It just came second nature to me. And so then I just started helping people out. And what people were doing, most people do, and this is, and we get into the misconceptions, is they were starved themselves. And when you starve yourself, your body takes muscle first. So then I was working with these people. I was like, okay, I was stationed on an island in Alaska, and I had a girl that I worked with, I need help. And she always worked out, but she could never lose weight. I said, okay, you're going to breakfast with me, you're going to lunch with me, you're going to dinner with me. And I completely transformed her body, and she never lost a pound because we got rid of body fat and we put on muscle. And that's kind of what started it. And then I got out of the military, moved to New Jersey because I loved the gyms. I actually thought I'd own a gym is what I thought I would do. And from there, I found myself in the GNCs, the General Nutrition Centers, and I was always training the staff on supplementation and how to do this and how to do that, like they didn't know. So fast forward, I found out about franchising. I was like, man, I can do this. So I franchised my first General Nutrition Center in February of 2000, so 25 years ago. And that's kind of led me into it. And I built that into a multi-million-dollar business. And still was doing nutrition coaching, but it was more of a service, like I wasn't charging for it. So it was a service that I provided to my customers, so I went from there, did that for 10 years, had 5 stores in Missouri and 1 in Arizona. And it just kept evolving and stuff like that. So I've helped thousands of people transform their bodies. And then this year I've launched a full-blown nutrition coaching business that I have dedicated to taking clients on one-on-one. And then my goal from that is, we have NutritionHQ now, which is a franchise, and we franchise our stores. And, our goal is to be at 100 stores by 2030. And as we've talked in the past, we are not your typical supplement store that you walk in and everybody gets the same product. We do consultations. We talk to you. We find out what's going on. And, most of the people in my stores, somebody has some sort of a certification for nutrition or personal training and stuff like that. So my goal with this coaching platform is I want to be able to teach my franchisees to hire a nutrition coach and have the same system in all my stores of nutrition coaching. And that's the ultimate goal with it. And I absolutely love doing it. Like last year, I was going to multiple conferences and I was just out of good nature helping busy entrepreneurs understand nutrition and helping them get dialed back in. And that's where we are today. And I'm still doing it and I absolutely love it.
I mean, that's a profound and such an interesting journey from your personal experience, your transformation, and actually being able to transform that into the business that you have and the impact and the help you've been able to give to so many people, help transform their lives as well in weight management, but also with very personalized and targeted methods as well. And I think that brings us beautifully to the topic of conversation today for our podcast, which is obviously the top 3 mistakes that actually ruin personalized coaching and wellness program. What would you say in your experience, Ricky, are the top 3 mistakes that ruin personalized coaching and wellness programs?
One is they're scared of food because they think it's going to make them fat. So that's one, I would say. And then the second one is starving themselves is another one. I run into so many people. I'll give you an example. One of my clients right now, I grew up with him and he literally was like, my wife and daughter can't believe how much food I'm eating now. I'm eating more than I ever have. And he's losing weight. It's because I'm teaching him to eat the right food. So, and starving themselves. And then probably not understanding food labels and not understanding what is actually good for you. We went through the no fat craze and all this stuff, so there was no fat in the product, but it was full of sugar. So that is the other one is not understanding what you're actually putting in your body, understanding food and labeling and, the hidden chemicals that are in food. That's what's scary. People think like, oh, I'm getting lunch meat that's turkey. It's full of nitrates, it's processed, and it's not good for you. So those are probably my biggest 3 that I focus on and see the most, And the other one is, and it's not an obstacle, but is enjoy moving, enjoy exercise. I teach a pyramid of nutrition where you got 24 hours in a day, allocate 2 hours for, let's say, health and wellness. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's going to the sauna, maybe it's a cold plunge, maybe it's walking your dog, playing soccer with your kids, going to the gym. So we'll do 2 hours there and then, 8 hours of sleep. So there's 10 hours. So there's 14 hours left in the day. What are you doing with your body? What are you putting in it? What are you feeding your body? So that's how I teach it. And I teach it very basic and simple, but I teach how to eat the right foods at the right time.
That's great. And 3 very fundamental kind of areas where there is a perception from what I'm hearing, from what you're explaining here, that actually has an opposite effect rather than the desired effect, right? And it actually, what you mentioned about sort of the food labeling, again, perception, I think this is good for me. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions here of people in terms of choosing certain food or nutrition that actually is really not good for you and has the opposite effect?
Avoiding fat. People are so scared of fat because, as you know, a gram of protein is 4 calories, a gram of carbohydrates 4 calories, a gram of fat's 9 calories. So they think if I remove fat out of my diet, and yes, you are calorie in, calorie out. We all understand that. But it's being scared of fats and eating food that has fat in it. I actually recommend, like last night, one of my clients messaged me, he's like, man, I'm hungry. What should I eat? I'm like, eat something fat. get like some avocado, eat something like that, because it's going to fill you up at night too. And by getting some fat in you at night, like let's say a stick of celery with almond butter on it or something like that, at night, that's also going to stabilize blood sugar throughout the night. So you're not having blood sugar spikes. So that's probably the biggest thing. People are scared of fat. I have a girl that helps me in my social media, and she was like, hey, will you send me a video of you making a snack? And I said, it's actually pretty simple. It's a tablespoon of almond butter in my mouth, like it's just that simple. And it really is. And going back to when I worked in the gyms in New Jersey and I personal trained, I had a basic certification for personal training. And I worked with people that had a degree in exercise science. And their clients would fire them and hire me because they saw results. And that's the thing is, and with nutrition and exercise and doing this, once you get that little bit of a win, a few pounds, they're getting stronger at the gym. That's accomplishment feedback. And that just feeds them to even be, not push, enjoy it even more. And that's the thing. But yeah, being scared of fat. So I recommend it. And one of my favorite supplements, as you were talking about supplementation, I think that's another thing that separates me is I've got all this year of supplementation, teaching you, hey, you can also add this into your diet that's going to complement, what we're doing with food. So like one of my favorite products is CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. It's a healthy fat. And there's study after study after study showing 3 to 6 grams of CLA will tell your body it's okay to lose body fat. And I put almost all my clients on it.
That's really interesting, Ricky. And thank you so much for sharing that. And fat, yeah, that's also, it has a label or a stigma around it that it's not good for you. But I read somewhere not too long ago that actually our brain, to function, we need fat.
Yes.
If you starve yourself or, don't eat fat at all, then obviously that also affects our brain function based on what I read there. And with that, your mental well-being, it has this ripple sort of effect, which actually brings me down to the supplementation side of things that you're so specialized in. And you take a very personalized approach in it. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you do that and how you're able actually to give real personalized recommendations based on what the desired outcome is of your clients?
Yeah, so I'll take you through our in-store experience, and I think that will help people understand what we do. So, I was with 2 other franchises, and I left those franchises because we couldn't take care of the customer. It was all about KPIs and hitting numbers that the corporate people wanted you to hit. And I get that. And KPIs are very important. I teach them to my stores to this day, every day. I mean, I do videos showing, hey, let's focus on this because there's a training moment there. But the reason we started NutritionHQ, and we did a call yesterday with all my owners. And when we went to NutritionHQ, our goal was the customers first, because you can have the best location, the best products on the shelf, the best consultants. If nobody's walking through the door, you have nothing. That's your biggest asset. So we took the approach it's a customer first approach. And we went from how many customers a day do we have to what we call door swings, how many door swings we have. And that led us to was something that we discussed on our first call was the InBody machine. And it's a scan. It's a 4-point. You stand on with no socks, no shoes, and you hold 2 wands in 15 seconds. We know what's going on with your body and InBody. So we're looking inside your body. So now in 15 seconds, we know how much muscle you have, how much body fat you have, your hydration levels. And then we can go from there and say, okay, Sherry, this is what you need. You are, and we teach a letter pattern. So like the way the scan comes out, we can see if you're a D, which means you have pretty good muscle. If you're a C, you're over fat, lower muscle. If you're an I, you're just straight in the middle, your body and stuff like that. And we can literally show you need protein, or you're dehydrated, you need an electrolyte. So that's how we started. And then, we can put an individual on a program. And they're like, and let's just use a guy who's wanting to put on some muscle. And he's like, man, I'm not getting anything out of this. I haven't changed in weight. I don't, and we're our biggest critic, especially, I know I am. And most of the time I was messaging a girl last night. I was like, I'm your biggest fan. Hang in there, because she was beating herself up. But then we can say, okay, you did a scan 6 weeks ago. Now we throw you back on the scan machine. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've lost 3 pounds of fat and put on 3 pounds of muscle. Mm-hmm. Who cares what the weight is? It's how you look. And that's how we plug and play. So if you walk into, I'm going to say 95% of most nutrition stores, they are going to sell very similar products to every customer. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we have 10 customers walk in our door and 10 customers are going to leave with 10 different products or 10 different programs because we are all not built the same, and the other thing back to, let's say, protein supplementation, when I started using protein, it was horrible, horrible. It was chalky and just didn't taste good. And now we have so many choices of protein. And, some people that are so scared of protein now, we mix samples up in the store. We're like, no, try this. And we'll mix it up right in front of them. They're like, oh my gosh, that's with water. And we're like, yes. So that's how we do our one-on-one approach. And even like for me, like if I have a client, say in Cincinnati, and I don't have, they can't come into my store and do an InBody scan. Usually we can find an InBody in their market. You may have to pay for a scan, but it's really nice to have. But we don't have to have it because we can do measurements. We can measure your right arm, left arm, right leg, left leg, waist, and hips. But that's how we do it. We everything's one-on-one. And all of my stores are the same way. And going back to one-on-one, what's working in Vidalia, Georgia is not the same thing working in Mishawaka, Indiana. So our stores also have their own little personality. So that's exactly how we do it. And I love it. And we get amazing feedback from it. People are like, I've never had this experience before. And I've had friends. I've had one of the most successful nutrition store owners in the country visit my store. And he goes, I am blown away by what you guys do. He goes, I'm in awe. And he goes, I know the nutrition business and the supplement business. So that's how we do it. We do. And when you care more about your customer than the sell, you're going to sell more.
Absolutely. I think you have a unique approach, but in a ways, it's kind of how it needs to be because you want to make sure that you get what is right for you based on data and not because magnesium is good for muscle recovery. I don't know if that's the case, or really good for sleep. I can't sleep very well, but it might not be the right dose, or actually there's something else missing here that needs to be, whether it's to lose weight or whether it is, I'm not getting enough protein or whatever it is. And it is that personalized, unique approach based on your data points, which is so valuable and actually so important. But I can only imagine that also contributes to your success because you're able to give what people really need to achieve their goals because it's data driven.
Yes. And that's another thing too is, think about going to the doctor for a cold or something and they give you a medicine to get rid of the cold, but it's not working. So then you go back and you get another medication. It's both for a cold, but we have different receptor sites. So let's say somebody comes in and they're, like you said, a great example, they're not sleeping and we get them on a sleep formula and they come back in, it's like, it's just not working. We exchange it out. We will find something that works with you, there is a solution, and that's one of our values is we are solution focused. We are going to help you find an answer. And if it's not in our four walls, maybe we refer you to a chiropractor. Maybe we refer you to a sleep clinic. Maybe we refer you to a personal trainer or nutrition. And that's our approach is like, we genuinely care about our customer and we're going to help you achieve your goals. You're not going to make everybody happy. We all know this, but our approach is, we will try to find you a solution.
I think that's amazing. And again, such a unique approach, particularly for, a supplement franchise or store that you walk in. That kind of service is, I'm not surprised you had feedback on that as well. Like, this is completely not what I expect. I mean, like early in the conversation, it's not something I know of here in the UK. I can walk into and get such a personalized, like, oh, and this is what I need in order to achieve my goals. For it, I will feel much better as well. And I think it's something that should almost be standard when it comes, particularly what you put in your body, right? We have, and we need to look after that in that sense. It actually leads me a little bit. So there are a lot of trends out there in the health and wellness industry in nutrition supplements. What would you say are the two big trends that you are currently looking at and will be impacting your business, either to drive it forward or might actually be something where you need to adapt something?
Trend, the trend, as you know, there's always some kind of fad diet or something like that. So like probably the thing you hear most people talking about right now is intermittent fasting and carnivore, or keto, something like that. So those are the things. And I'm not scared of fads as long as I'm going to come back to it. is protein. If you've got to get protein in your diet. So that's the main thing. And then intermittent fasting is I'm not a fan of it. For me, I don't like it. I don't have success on it. And maybe it's in my head, but I like to eat. I like to eat from the morning I get up to the end of the day. I spread my meals out, small frequent meals. A lot of people love intermittent fasting, but what they'll do is, and I worked with a very successful business lady who had 2 kids. And she goes, I'm intermittent fasting. And I said, what time do you eat your first meal? She goes, 2:00. And then my last meal is at 10. I would feed between 2 and 10. And I said, and this is like at 9 in the morning. And I said, well, you're holding a Monster energy drink. You've already broken your fast. Like she didn't even know she was breaking her fast by drinking an energy drink. So like those are the things is you have to understand what you're actually doing. I met another lady who was intermittent fasting and she had a 4-hour window to get her food in. I said, you're never going to do it. I'm not talking you out of intermittent fasting, but at least open your window up so you can, think about in 4 hours, like for me, 200 grams of protein is what I shoot for a day. Eating 225 grams of protein in 4 hours is not even feasible. You're going to be miserable. So those are the things that I'm seeing right now the most. They don't scare me. I just try to educate on them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's great as well, because it is the education. There's so much information out there, but it's also left onto interpretation. And it is actually speaking and being exposed or having access to the right experts to know how to do it, or make sure that you follow the right sort of methods in whatever you choose that you want to do, whether it's intermittent fasting or a keto diet. It doesn't really matter what you shoot for, but it is the education around it to do it right. And I think it's great that you are so open-minded on it, but you do provide and help people with sort of the right guidance and expertise and the real knowledge behind it, so people can make informed decisions. And I think that's so important for all of us as well. I was just wondering, Ricky, in terms of you were talking about expanding your franchise, and obviously you recently started the coaching program. Could you tell us or elaborate a little bit more on your coaching program, what that entails, and kind of how that works?
Yeah, so I'll bring, my niche, or the people I work with, that I seem to be able to relate with the most are entrepreneurs or busy professionals, male, female, 40-ish, give or take 5-10 years. And that's who I'm working with the most here. And my goal is to perfect my system. And I'm using an app that all my clients use. And I'll give you an example. Like I had a client, it's like, I don't like to track my food. I'm like, I can't help you. If you're not tracking your food, I can't, if we can't measure it, I can't help coach you on it. So she'll come around. I think she will. But is to teach a system, like back up. I was working with a individual who helps people find a franchise, so that's what he specializes in. He helps entrepreneurs or people find a franchise that fits their personality. And I did nutrition coaching with him. He was like, I don't like to do this and I don't like to do that and this. And I said, Mike, why do you sell franchises? And he goes, because it's a system and a process, and systems and processes are proven to work. And I said, okay, think of nutrition the same way. You want to follow a system and a process for success. So I'm putting all that in place. And then I can look within, like, I'll give you an example. Like I can take within an hour, look at probably 25 clients for the day and see their food intake, see where their macros hit, see where they're falling short and things like that. And I want to take that, perfect it to where let's just say I get to 100 clients, which I will, and then have a system to where I can take my 100 clients out and hire a coach under me that will now facilitate and take care of my clients. And then we'll teach each store to have a coach that can handle up to 100 clients, and they'll have a head coach that I hired that they can look up to. So we're all following a similar system and process. And then we can have even more of an impact. So we bring even another service to our stores, so we're not just selling supplementation. We're actually helping people that don't know how to eat and are scared of foods. And that's the goal with the nutrition program I'm rolling out. Basically, what I've been doing all these years, I'm finally putting into a system and a process that can be duplicated at all my stores.
That's fantastic and very innovative as well. And, obviously you've got your stores and your franchises, which is one channel, but it is getting that right sort of coaching and education into that. So you can broaden that even further, right? And it seems like it's part of your sort of growth plan, which actually leads very beautifully to one of the things that we wanted to ask. What is next for Nutrition HQ, or what is your focus for the next sort of 6 to 8 months to a year?
Yep. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually starting Monday. We are actually testing a feature that will work with our InBody machine that will actually sync with an app, and then people can see even more. So we're taking our InBody machine and putting technology behind it that will also help people. When they come in and do a scan and we see that they're dehydrated, now the technology is recommending these products. So it's reinforcing what we're telling them and they're seeing it. So that is one thing. So we're getting ready to test 2 platforms that are going to take our InBody service to the whole another level, and then rolling the nutrition coaching into each store at the same time. But I want to go back to, why the nutrition coaching, why the InBody and stuff like that. And I was talking to an individual and he just couldn't wrap his head around what we do. And he goes, well, I can go to Costco and buy a vitamin. I can go to Costco and get a protein. I said, you can, and you can go to Amazon and do the same thing. I said, but the next time you're in Costco, ask them if you can do an InBody scan. Ask them, how many grams of protein do I need a day to lose weight? And he goes, and I said, it's a whole different, we are not for everybody, but we are trying to provide a service that you can't click online and you can't walk into another store and get. And that's why we're doing that. We're trying to separate ourselves from all the competition.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's your unique value proposition as well, to have that tailored, personalized sort of approach really to you and your data, with the InBody scan, with the coaching alongside that you do with your clients to really help achieve their goals, which I think is amazing and profound. I wish you were in the UK. I think I'll be visiting you one of your stores for sure.
Back to the InBody machine, it spits out this data, but it also gives us your metabolic rate. So we know exactly how many calories you burn not doing anything. So when somebody's like, oh, I'm eating 1,200 calories a day to lose weight, and I'm like, but your metabolic rate is 1,900 calories just without moving, laying in bed, you're going to burn 1,900 calories. Well, let's get you up to 1,900 calories. And, then figuring in moving throughout the day, 10,000 steps, or working out. I just got back from the gym an hour ago and I worked out an hour and 15 minutes. I said allocate 2 hours. I say that because driving to the gym, or, you're not rushing, getting ready for work, showering, cleaning, and feeding yourself too. And that's another thing too. What people will do is they'll leave the gym. And what I always try to teach people is like, you're only in the gym to move, get your metabolism going, lift weights. I love to lift weights. When you leave the gym, your body is starving for nutrients. So you need to be feeding it as soon as you leave the gym with good proteins and good carbs. And you can actually, we can go down a whole nother podcast on fast carbs, slow carbs, and things like that, vegetarian protein, egg protein, whey protein. But, after a workout, your body wants protein and fast carbs. So like one of my favorite things is egg white protein and blueberries. That's my favorite post-workout meal. So that's, teaching that like, hey, yeah, you did the damage in the gym, but now we got to feed it. And another thing too, that a lot of people misunderstand is, I'm actually getting ready to do a video on visceral fat. And there's five things that cause visceral fat. And as we know, studies show visceral fat is linked to diabetes, heart disease. I mean, it's bad. It's the belly fat. And that's what we got to get a hold of, because it will kill you. And one of the 5 on visceral fat is working out too much, because you put your body into fight or flight, which means your body's going to store fat because it's scared that you're overtraining. So it's teaching that, where's that happy medium? You know what I mean?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ricky. I haven't heard this before. That if you were, then actually your body, the fight or flight mode, and I'm going to store fat because I'm worried I'm going to run out. Thank you so much for raising and touching on that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that are not aware of this. Love to hear your video or what you do on that. I think it's very important to raise awareness around the topic specifically. If you kind of would be able to solve one major challenge today for your business, what would that be?
Man, if I could wave my magic wand, is to get people to understand how bad sugar is for you, where it is. I mean, it's lurking everywhere. And, you have to get it under control, because back to insulin spikes, diabetes, making your body store fat, visceral fat, is that it's probably the education part on that, and educating the consumer also about the food pyramid. In my opinion, the food pyramid by the federal government is upside down. I don't believe our diet needs to be a foundation of grains. I believe our foundation needs to be protein, and you can eat as much vegetables as you want. You can eat fruit at the right time, but I will tell you this, and this is controversial probably to a lot of dietitians. When I'm working with somebody and there's a lot of fruit in their diet and they're not losing weight, I say, no more fruit. We're taking the fruit out of your diet until we get the fat metabolizing and you start moving and stuff like that. Then we can reintroduce the fat back in. And another thing I love to teach is we hit your goal. Okay. And now we have you at your ideal weight, you're feeling great, stuff like that. And we all know, when you're at an ideal weight, your muscle's higher, your metabolism's higher, and you can cheat a little bit more, and I actually, one of my clients, I'm having a hard time getting to cheat. I'm like, I want you to eat so much on Saturday, your mom's mad at you. I need you to let your body know that there is calories out there. But what I teach is, okay, we got you to your goal weight, and maybe this person struggled with weight. If you put on 5 pounds, let's go back to what got you down to your goal weight. Don't let 5 turn to 10, 10 turn to 20, 20 turn to, oh my gosh, I hate myself again. And that's it. Keeping yourself in that little window. Like for me, I know my window is 190 to 200. And it depends on what I'm doing in my training schedule, but that's my ideal weight. I've been as high as 235 with muscle, and it was not healthy for me, and my body didn't like it. So it's finding that ideal weight that your body functions more efficiently. You know what I mean? So, and it's teaching that, and people know that weight. I bet if you walked up to most people on the street today and said, what is your ideal weight? What makes you feel good? What weight makes you feel good? And I'd say most of those people are going to give you a number.
Yeah. I mean, that's really interesting because weight is always looked at as a number, but I love that you bring in it's about what makes you feel good. And what you said earlier as well, it's the versus your body actually changes shape based on transferring fat to muscle as
Yes.
well. But the weight is say the number remains the same. So, and also what is actually the right weight for a certain individual to have their body function optimum and feel good? There is this whole BMI thing there as well. And I'm getting a little bit personal here, but I'm very petite and I fall out of the BMI. So based on the BMI, I need to fatten up essentially. However, I can't. It's my metabolism, but I feel fine. If you look at my bloods, everything, I'm as healthy as a fish.
Yes.
And I kind of, it depends a little bit in terms of what is right. And I'm not saying that necessarily, maybe there is a better weight goal for me. I don't know. I never sort of investigated it. I should come to one of your stores and actually check it out and see what I need here. Right. I think, it's great as maybe a guidance, but there is, again, it comes down to that personalization that we've been talking about today. What is right for you? What do you need in order to want to achieve your goal and actually feel good, but, also feel good function? Your body actually can function on the optimum of your being. And I think that's so interesting and profound.
It's interesting you say that. So think of the military. I was in the Air Force, and we always had to do weigh-ins, and you had to run 3 miles at a certain time. True story. I literally qualified for what they called the Fat Boy program. Per the BMI, I was heavier than I should have been. And I was always like, yeah, put me on the Fat Boy program, because that meant they had to let you go work out every day for an hour. I was like, I'll be happy to be on it. But, then as I was transitioning out of the military, they started doing body composition. They were looking at body fat because it is a better judge of weight, and that goes back to the InBody. I'm sorry. And I love the InBody and it gives us the data that we need to help somebody achieve their goals. I mean, I'll tell you how good our InBody is. I had a gentleman do a scan one time, and it will tell us how much your right arm weighs, your left arm, your right leg, your left leg, and your torso. And I noticed his whatever leg it was, his right leg it weighed a lot less than his left leg. And I was like, man, what happened? And he raised his pant leg up, and he had completely had reconstruction of his knee. His muscle had atrophied. So that lets you know what we can see on this thing. And another thing I had too is I had a girl who was a CrossFitter. So, and she had to carry the CrossFitters carry more muscle. Well, she was training for a half marathon, and we were seeing her muscle go down. because her body's using muscle for energy, because that's what happens when you run. And I just told her, I said, run your half marathon, stay the course, don't let this freak you out. Once you get back to CrossFitting, we'll jack your protein back up, and muscle has memory. You'll get it back. So, but that just lets you know your body is super smart. You just got to know how to, I'm going to say, manipulate it, or, coach it into the direction we want it to go.
Yeah. I think that's so profound again, Ricky. I mean, you're sharing so many golden nuggets here today with us. I can't thank you enough. I have one closing question for you. You already sort of referred to the magic wand, and I do have a magic wand question for you, if that's okay. So hypothetically speaking, if you had a magic wand, and you can use it again, if you could fix one thing in your business right now that will really move the needle, but it's actually holding you back or slowing you down at the moment to get there, what would that one thing be for you?
The thing that's holding us back the most is finding the right franchisee that has our core values, and we're building what, like I call our store culture, and it's finding those people that fit our culture and that have the same passion that we do. So I'm blessed with what I have. And actually, what's amazing with my business model too, and we didn't touch it, is my son is actually one of my franchisees. So like, he grew up in the back of a vitamin store, went to college, and got out of school and said, Dad, I want to come do this. I miss it. And if you talk to him, or you talk to any of my current franchisees, yes, we only have 3. They are so passionate about helping people. And it's finding those people out there that want to do exactly what we're doing in the, like, I'm talking to a lady in Nigeria that wants to take our business model there because she fell in love with it. I think our business model, there's no reason why we can't have 2,000 to 5,000 stores one day, across the world. I don't want it just to be here in the US. You mentioned the UK. I would love to expand to the UK with the right franchisee, So that's my magic wand, finding more people that are as passionate about Nutrition HQ as my current team.
That's amazing. Ricky, thank you so much for sharing that. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest on the show. I think we definitely should do a follow-up on the fats or some of the other sides of it. I would love that. Yes, it's been a true pleasure having you on our show today, and thank you so much for your wisdom and expertise today.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I love doing this. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.